Hey there Titans, in this video I'll show you how to configure the user access token. Okay, so what user access token will do is once we enable it, and I'm just going to put garbage over here and we'll talk about what this does in a minute. What will happen is if we'll try and publish this and launch it, it's not going to be active unless we pass a parameter to it, that token that we'll receive from Titan. So the way this will work is like so. So Titan API has this REST API method, web token, and we need to pass in our project ID. And we'll pass the parameters, and we'll talk about the parameters in just a second. And once we receive the response, if everything goes according to plan, you'll get that token. We'll pass it in the URL. That token will be available for a number of minutes, whatever we specified in the expiration. And only that way users will be able to access your Titan web project. This adds a lot of security, and it's really helpful in cases where, like, let's say you want to embed the project elsewhere, not in Salesforce, which LWC covers, and SSO, you just want to have a custom embed or a custom way to generate the link from your server with the token, that only with that token you'll be able to access the project. So let's see how this works. So let's go back over there and we'll cover the token parameters here. So the parameter name is whatever we'll need to pass in the URL. So we will call this the token, and time live, I'll do 1 minute. So if the user tries to refresh after 1 minute, refresh the whole web project, it will fail. Parameter salt is basically for your encryption, so I'm just going to put anything over here. A long string is recommended, but we'll call this we'll do something like this, and map user ID too. So let's take a look at the user ID. So user ID, and we can pass a role as well, but what we will do with the user ID is if we need an identifier to pass back to Titan. This could be anything. It could be a user ID from your external system where you can process it within the Titan web project, or anything you want passed from the server to us with that token. So let's see how this looks. So I'll say map user ID to. Usually it will be to a variable. In this instance, let's just map it to the text field so we can see it coming through. But normally, and that's the recommended use case, is you pass it to a variable, and we'll say var from token. I'm not calling it user ID on purpose, because I just want you to get the idea here that you can pass anything you like. It could be a user ID. Typically, this is what it will be, an identifier for that user, or anything else you want to pass. Okay, so let's save this. And obviously this right now, whenever I'm able to preview, but whenever this is published, no one will be able to access it unless we pass the parameter right here. So we'll go back to user access, and we configured it to be the token. So we will need to basically generate the URL like so, the token equals something. And again, if I pass it like this, it's not going to open my project. Okay, so let's see how we can get this token. So we'll go back over here. We see the path, web token project. And one thing you have to make sure is that you have your API enabled. So let me just duplicate this, and I'll go over here, my account, and we'll go to settings, and we'll go to API, and we want to make sure allow API access, and you want to have access for submissions, and that should be enough. Submissions and maybe objects. Okay, so once we have this, we'll need our API key as well. And let's take a look at how we can do this. I'll just do a simple postman over here, and it's a GET request. Let's just remove everything here, and let's see what we're passing. So I'm just going to go back to my URL here. So first we need our custom domain. So I'm just gonna grab everything from here. I'll keep the project ID. I ran that request by mistake. And what we want to do is we'll go back to our API and we want to do web token and then project. Okay, so web token and then project ID. We don't need to get, and that should do it. Now in the headers, we want to pass FT API key, and we'll grab that from our settings. So we have this, and now let's put in some parameters. So we want to add, let me just put this side by side. So we want to pass the token, just like we've seen there. So we'll go there. Just gonna put it on a different screen here. Okay, so we'll pass in the salt, and we'll pass in the expiration. Okay, so I've added all the variables here. So we have salt, expiration, user ID, and parameter key. Now everything has to match your Titan project. So let me just bring it in here. So parameter key is basically our parameter name, and that's called the token. And salt is our saltier than salt, time live, and it has to match what you got on the project. And the user ID is free for all. So that will be, this is just a simple postman, but that will be data from server. Okay, so that will be your user ID or any parameter that you want to pass to the token. Now once I send this request, we got the error here. Let's see why. So we see project here is FT06B, and we need the ID from the URL. So we'll grab this and we'll put this over here, and let's run this again. And one thing we're missing is the API v1, and now we should be good. Okay, perfect. And we have our token. Now if I'll take this token and I'll go ahead to my publish URL, and I will say the token equals the token that I've received from Titan. Make sure we put it correctly, the token, and run it. Save, publish, and was published without that settings before. So we will refresh, and we will say the token equals that, and there we have it. Now the only thing we have to do is wait a minute, and once we refresh, this token will not be valid anymore, and we will get a 404 since it's locked in. And that's exactly what happened. Obviously we can increase the expiration time, so on and so forth. One thing we want to make sure, because I saw that we didn't get that user ID, so we want to make sure we have it exactly as we need to receive it, which is user and then capital ID, and we'll get a new token, and let's just make sure that it's mapped to our text field over there. We'll run it again, and there is our data, and obviously I can send whatever I want over here, and if I'll open it with that token, and obviously this is just a very simplistic demonstration. You will probably do it dynamic. The user ID will be dynamic. You can pass anything here for a specific token, and it's a very great tool to secure your Titan Web project. And this is how it's done.